A normal consumer pays their bill twice a month. Maybe they get paid, bi-weekly, something like that. Most people aren't paying their credit cards every single day, every single week. That's not typical behavior. So
why major companies like Chase, Capital One, and so many others, why they're starting to increase the amount of accounts that they're closing. Yeah. Now, you've had relationships with all of these banks, and obviously you have some great expertise. In 2026, what behaviors can cardholders put, or should they know that it could be at risk for an account review, a shutdown, a change in their perks? And how do you avoid that while still maximizing your rewards safely?
What an amazing question. And all of your questions have been amazing, but this one is particularly standing out.
We getting better. We getting
awesome. I love your growth. The simple answer comes down to you cannot change your behavior rapidly. That's as simple as I can put it. And here's what I mean. If you normally so when you apply for a credit card, a part of that application is putting things down like where you live. And because they do have all this data about the people that live in your area and community, but then also what's your salary and what's your expected income. So I say all that to say, if you're typically putting $400 on your Citi or American Express, or you name the bank, insert bank here, every single month, and then all of a sudden next month, you're putting $40,000, $4,000, and then you're going back to 400, that spike and that change of consumer behavior is how it goes from the computer just saying, yep, this is definitely key doing those expenses to, is something going on? Did they lose their job? Why are they putting all this money on this card all of a sudden after only putting, a couple dimes or a couple pennies on it? What's going on? So that's how it goes from the computer algorithm just saying, yep, cut the statement to, hello, this is American Express. We have some questions for you. Or they're just turn your card off.
People were getting cards and with Capital One in general, and most of them already had a card in general.
Yeah.
And what was happening was that they were swiping. Let's say, for example, your limit is 1,000.
Okay.
They would essentially either max the card out or use close to the limit, and just using the card for whatever reason. Then they would pay that amount off. So let's say, for example, the limit is 1,000. They swipe for 800. They pay the $800 off in like a week or so, and then they swipe it up again. So the assumption is Capital One does not like it, and then it kind of carried into banks don't like it. All credit card companies don't like it. What's your take on that?
Sure. Yeah. So exactly. What you just defined is called credit limit cycling, or just cycling your credit. Think of it like laundromat, right? Yeah. Typically, they cut your statement at the end of the month, but because you have that $1,000 limit, you may have used $6,000 in that same 30 days. I could see why that causes some red flags, especially if those folks have newer accounts, or this is maybe their first exposure. They may be Capital One customers, but maybe this is their first or entry-level card with Capital One. That's not the behavior of a normal consumer. A normal consumer pays their bill twice a month. Maybe they get paid, bi-weekly, something like that. Most people aren't paying their credit cards every single day, every single week. That's not typical behavior. So again, I think a lot of folks just have to step back and say, is everyone else doing this? Is anyone else doing this? And I'm not talking about looking on, a Reddit forum or a blog forum, because those are the people that you're going to find. You have to expose your bubble to make sure that you're not too narrow focused, right? I need you to see behind the blinders of what's being shown to you. So
absolutely.
I don't think it's every bank though. I definitely know some banks that will allow that, but again, it's over time. It's not just I get a card tomorrow and I start doing this behavior. No way.